You said never let me go. You said never let me.
Hey guys, so apologies for essentially being AWOL from Halloween, but I've had some technical issues with actually getting my videos from my iPad onto my computer to upload them to YouTube, but I've rectified that now, so we are catching up. I haven't long woken up, so forgive the kind of mess I'm looking at in it. But I'm back at my mum's for Christmas. So it's the 17th of December and I'm only now filming my November wrap up and giving you a brief catch up on what I read in the first 2 weeks of December. So let's just go into it. So I only ended up reading 7 books in November. Very slumpy month for me. But most of them ended up being non-fiction, which for anyone that follows my blog or anything knows is unusual for me. I don't read a lot of non-fiction. So I started with Masters of Medicine by Andrew Lamb. That was 5 stars if you've got any sort of interest in the history of medicine or certain conditions. Then I would highly recommend checking it out. It's not just science either. There's a lot of history, culture. There's a lot of stuff that went into it that was really amazing. Then I read 2 pretty similar books, but I preferred one far more than the other. So I read the Anarchist Cookbook by William Powell, which I give 3.75 stars, and Steal This Book by Abbie Hoffman, which I gave 4.25. Now, both of these, as the names kind of suggest, were written during the kind of anarchist movement of the 60s, 70s, 80s. The Anarchist Cookbook is just essentially a manual, a cookbook for illegal things. So yeah, there wasn't really any context, any history to it, and parts of it were extremely technical, but that technology is now outdated, so I had no working knowledge of it. Steal This Book, on the other hand, had those elements of the Anarchist Cookbook where it tells you how to do certain things, but it also provides a lot of social commentary on the time and why the author is providing these guides and this advice to the reader, which is something that I really enjoyed, even though a lot of the stuff you see in there is either completely illegal or highly unethical. You kind of get where Abbie Hoffman is coming from, and their viewpoint on it. So I'm going to take a brief break and talk about the 2 fictional books I read, which were books 4 and 5. Yeah, I think so. But novellas 4 and 5 in the Human Mate Insight series by B.R. Wilde, so Mr. Kinky and Mr. Heartless. Now, Jensen from Mr. Kinky is one of my favourite male protagonists so far in this series, alongside obviously Bella, our female main character, with the exception to Liam. Liam is still my favourite. But yeah, Jensen was pretty cool. I did have certain issues with Miss Kinky, which is why I only give it 3.5 stars. But after actually speaking with B.R. Wilde, I understand where it came from. But there were certain elements of Mr. Kinky that I really didn't enjoy. But then Mr. Heartless brought it straight back to the beginning, a solid 5-star entry. And it introduced us to a couple of new characters that are potential love interests, one of which I definitely want to see more of. It also brings Liam back into the picture as a love interest, because he obviously had his book and he's been dipping in and out here and there, But I really see kind of Liam and Bella as endgame at the minute. But I don't know what B.R. Wilder's going to pull on us, because this is a 13 novella series, and I have no idea what she's going to do with it, and it's driving me a bit mad, but I love it. I also have the next book, which I will talk about in my video wrapping up my first 2 weeks of reading in December, but that one I can't wait to get into. And the last 2 books I read were non-fiction again. I read Jog On, How Running Saved My Life by Bella Mackie. Most people will know Bella Mackie from How to Kill Your Family, but I actually picked this one up first just to get an idea of the sense of like how she writes, and I actually really enjoyed it. A side note, it's still not going to make me take up running or jogging or any form of exercise to deal with anxiety, but I really appreciate like how frankly she talks about it and how it helped her get through her own issues, her own anxiety, how it helped her not just deal with those issues but actually form relationships, friends, gave her more of a bond with her sister, and there's just a really, really frank discussion on mental health, which if you've read someone like Jenny Lawson, it's very similar. Not as funny, but like Jenny Lawson uses humour to get a point across, but she is very frank with her mental and physical health, and Bella Mackie was very much the same. So I actually cannot wait to read How to Kill Your Family, because I think I'm really going to get on with her fictional books as well as her non-fiction, and I ended up giving that 4 stars. And then the last book I read was Slenderman by Kathleen Hale, which I also give 5 stars to, and it looks at the Slenderman stabbing in America. And basically the entire premise of it is 3 preteen girls, 2 of which have become obsessed with the idea of Slenderman and that he's real, and that in order to be taken in by him rather than killed by him, they have to offer a sacrifice, which they choose their friend. And it basically goes through not just the crime, it doesn't really focus on the crime that much, it focuses on the girls themselves. So it looks at their childhood growing up, mental health issues, and after the trial and everything, what happened to them. And for fans of true crime, it hits all the right marks, but it's also very emotional and very heartbreaking to see that one of these young girls in particular ended up committing this crime because she was schizophrenic and the signs of it were ignored. She wasn't given any treatment, and then when the worst happened, she was vilified for it rather than being offered help. So yeah, I literally spent the entirety of November reading non-fiction with 2 very short novellas to break it up. That trend, I think, is continuing in December. I have read a few non-fiction so far, but I'll talk about that a bit more in my next video. But yeah, just a great reading month in November in terms of what I read, but was a bit disappointed with the amount I read. So I'm hoping that'll change in December, but it's Christmas and New Year's, so we shall see. But I'll see you in a bit.